In 1970, a tiny American car company called AMC unveiled a supercar in front of the Colosseum in Rome. It hit 170 miles per hour at Monza. BMW called its chassis the stiffest they had ever tested, and the man who engineered the Ferrari 250 GTO said it handled better than anything he had ever built. But AMC already knew the car was dead. 2 months before that Rome unveiling, an internal memo had canceled the entire program. So why did they show it anyway? And how did the company that built your grandmother's Rambler almost beat Lamborghini with a mid-engine supercar at half the price? To understand this story, you have to understand how desperate AMC was in 1967. The Wall Street Journal had basically written their obituary. The previous chief executive officer, Roy Abernethy, had blown $60 million trying to compete head-to-head with General Motors and Ford by building bigger cars. It was a catastrophic bet. By 1967, AMC had hemorrhaged $75 million in losses, and their market share had cratered to barely 3%. The board fired Abernethy and installed 3 new leaders: Roy Chapin Jr., whose father had literally co-founded Hudson Motor Car Company; William Lundberg, a manufacturing hardcase who had previously run Ford's massive Rouge plant; and Gerald Myers, a 39-year-old vice president who believed AMC needed something so radical that it would force the entire industry to take them seriously. They launched the Javelin pony car. They hired Roger Penske and Mark Donohue for Trans Am racing. They built outrageous machines like the Hearst SC Rambler. But Myers wanted something bigger, something nobody would see coming from a Rambler company. In May of 1967, he gave the green light for a mid-engine prototype. The mid-engine revolution was already transforming racing. Ford's GT40 had conquered Le Mans. Lamborghini's Miura was rewriting what a road car could be. Myers wanted AMC in that conversation. AMC board chair Robert Evans set the tone when he told his design chief, "We gotta be different, Dick. We can't just be like the other guy." That design chief was Dick Teague, and his life story is almost as wild as the car he was about to create. Richard Teague was born in Los Angeles in 1923. At age 5, he appeared in 5 episodes of Our Gang, the old Hollywood comedy shorts, playing a girl named Dixie Duval. At age 6, a drunk driver's crash propelled him through a car windshield and permanently destroyed the sight in his right eye. His father had been killed in a similar accident. That missing eye kept him out of World War II, so he became an aircraft illustrator at Northrop Corporation. His boss pushed him toward night classes at Art Center College of Design. Teague bounced from General Motors to Packard to what he called the worst 18 months of my life at Chrysler before landing at AMC in 1959. He became vice president of styling in 1964 and held that title for over 2 decades, the longest tenure of any design vice president in Detroit history. Industry insiders called him Mr. Clean because he hated unnecessary ornamentation. He once made the front and rear bumpers of the 1970 Hornet from the same stamping to save money. He built entire model lines from shared body panels that looked nothing alike. Car Life magazine praised him as fresh air amidst an atmosphere of the all-too-common design-by-committee school of styling. For the AMX3, Teague and his team created what he considered his masterpiece. AMC management insisted on a design competition, so they commissioned a rival proposal from Giorgetto Giugiaro, who had just co-founded Ital Design. But when Giugiaro's crude styrofoam model arrived that November, it was no contest against Teague's fully developed fiberglass mock-up. As one historian put it, maybe Giugiaro realized right away that for Dick Teague, he was never supposed to be more than a token contender. Teague won, but a beautiful body means nothing without a world-class chassis underneath it. And that is where this story gets genuinely insane. Giotto Bizzarrini was born in Livorno, Italy in 1926. His engineering degree thesis at the University of Pisa involved redesigning a Fiat Topolino's engine placement for optimal weight distribution. That obsession with balance would define his entire career. He joined Alfa Romeo as a test driver who happened to be an engineer, then got recruited by Enzo Ferrari in 1957 as sports car development chief. At Ferrari, Bizzarrini engineered the 250 GTO, arguably the most valuable car ever made. He moved the engine lower and rearward, reduced the frontal area, and created what became a Le Mans-dominating masterpiece. But in October 1961, he walked out during the infamous Night of the Long Knives, a mass departure triggered by Enzo Ferrari's wife interfering in engineering decisions. After leaving Ferrari, Bizzarrini did something extraordinary. Ferruccio Lamborghini hired him to design a V12 engine for a brand new car company. That engine powered virtually every V12 Lamborghini for nearly 50 years, including the Miura. Bizzarrini also engineered the Isogrifo and launched his own car company, winning his class at the 1965 Le Mans 24 Hours. But Bizzarrini's company went bankrupt in late 1968, which made one of the greatest automotive engineers alive suddenly available, right when AMC needed him most. Bizzarrini's contributions to the AMX3 were specific and brilliant. He designed a fully independent double wishbone suspension with an innovative 6-shock absorber system, 2 Coney dampers per rear wheel plus 1 per front to manage the heavy mid-mounted V8. When the standard ZF gearbox proved too long for the car's short wheelbase, he convinced OTO Malera, an Italian defense contractor that normally built naval weapons and tanks, to develop a custom 4-speed transaxle from scratch. And this is where the whole project becomes almost comically international. AMC in Kenosha, Wisconsin handled the engine and the money. Dick Teague's team in Detroit designed the body. Ital Design in Turin engineered the unibody structure for production. Bizzarrini in Livorno handled the chassis and suspension. Salvatore Diamante hand-fabricated the prototypes. Carmen in Germany was designated for series production, and BMW signed an $800,000 contract to test and validate everything. BMW gave the project their internal code, E18. Their engineers found the first prototype structurally deficient, seams bursting and frame rails flexing, but the second prototype was 50% stiffer, and BMW ultimately declared it one of the stiffest and most neutral handling chassis they had ever tested, 50% higher torsional stiffness than a benchmark Mercedes-Benz. The engine was AMC's own 390 cubic inch V8, mounted behind the passenger compartment, 340 horsepower, 430 pound-feet of torque. When Bizzarrini and racing driver Antonio Neri took it to the Autodromo di Monza in the spring of 1970, they clocked 170 miles per hour after adding a chin spoiler to cure high-speed lift. Neri's fastest lap was 1 minute and 56 seconds, competitive with the best Italian exotics of that era. For context, the Lamborghini Miura topped out at around 171 miles per hour and cost over $20,000. The AMX3 matched it for roughly $10,000 to $12,000. The De Tomaso Pantera, its most direct competitor, could only manage about 162 miles per hour. Motor Trend Classic later drove one of the prototypes and said the body structure felt tighter and stiffer than a Pantera, with few of the creaks and groans you would expect from a production car of that era, let alone a prototype. So AMC had a car that outperformed machinery costing twice as much. They had validation from BMW. They had praise from the man who engineered the Ferrari GTO. They had showgoers at the Chicago Auto Show literally trying to put down deposits, and then they shut it down. On January 7, 1970, an internal BMW note referenced the cancellation of the development program by AMC. That was 2 full months before AMC unveiled the car to the world press in front of the Colosseum in Rome on March 23rd. They shot publicity photos with the car parked against ancient Roman ruins, knowing the entire time that the program was already over. The reasons were a pileup, not a single decision. AMC had just committed $70 million to buy Kaiser Jeep, a bet that would ultimately prove brilliant since Jeep became the reason Chrysler eventually purchased AMC. But that $70 million consumed every dollar of available capital. New bumper standards coming in 1973 would have required an expensive redesign of the car's front end. Emissions regulations were strangling high-performance engines, and Ford had launched the De Tomaso Pantera at a retail price of just $9,953, backed by Lincoln Mercury's massive dealer network. AMC's tiny dealer network and zero exotic car reputation made the odds impossible. The projected production volume had already shrunk from an optimistic 5,000 cars a year to a realistic 1,000, and then further to just 24 to 30 cars for the first year. At those numbers, the math collapsed. Dick Teague later reflected, "The program was done on a shoestring, and we were on the verge of entering a new era. The muscle car period was ending, and industry priorities were starting to change." AMC's future turned out to be the Gremlin, America's first subcompact, which debuted on April 1st, 1970, and eventually sold over 671,000 units. The Hornet Compact moved over 860,000. Those were the cars that kept AMC alive. Not a $12,000 Italian-built exotic, but the darkest moment came after cancellation. Chief Executive Officer Gerald Myers reportedly suggested crushing the remaining prototypes at AMC headquarters. Every single one of them, Dick Teague refused. In 1978, he personally purchased 3 of the 6 cars with his own money, along with 28 leftover OTO Melara transaxles to save them from destruction. The man who designed the car spent his own paycheck to keep it from being flattened. All 6 prototypes survive today, every single one. And in 2016, nearly half a century after the project died, car number 2, the Monza car, the one that hit 170 miles per hour, the one Bizzarrini called the best handling car he ever made, won Best in Class at the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance in the Bizzarrini category. It was the first AMC vehicle ever to win at Pebble Beach. The following year, it sold at a Gooding & Company auction for $891,000. Giotto Bizzarrini lived to see that Pebble Beach win. He died on May 13, 2023 at 96 years old. One of his final recorded statements about the car was simple. He told collector Walter Kirtland that the AMX3 was the best handling car he ever made, and that includes the Ferrari 250 GTO. Dick Teague died on May 5, 1991. He considered the AMX3 his masterpiece, the one clean sheet design he created without the constraints of recycling platforms and cutting corners. He referred to his years at AMC as Camelot. The AMX3 story is not really about a car. It is about what happens when a company too small to fail quietly assembles a team that has no business working together, builds something genuinely extraordinary, and then watches the math destroy it. AMC beat Chevrolet to the mid-engine concept by 50 years. The C8 Corvette did not arrive until 2020. Car and Driver described the AMX3 as a bona fide exotic, one that has every right to share the podium with the better-known vintage car royalty. The validation came. It just arrived decades too late for the company that built it. If you want to see another story of an incredible car that corporate politics killed before it ever reached a showroom, that video is on screen now. Subscribe so you do not miss it.